America, we are back, baby. Welcome to another episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides. Let's dive right into our topics today. Our first topic, I want to talk about Alligator Alcatraz. I've talked really highly about this before. I still think extremely highly of the idea, and I'll dive into that in a second. But there is something that I have a problem with. We're not an immoral country. We're not a country that tortures our prisoners. We're not a country that makes very inhumane conditions for our prisoners. I actually do think some of our prisons should have slightly better conditions. I don't think prisons should be good conditions. People who are in jail and committed crimes should have to suffer the consequences of that. But I don't think it should be inhumane or dangerous conditions that can make people die. And that's something we could be seeing with Alligator Alcatraz. I currently live in Southwest Florida. I understand the dangers of hurricanes. And we saw just after not a light rainfall, but a fairly decent rainfall, that there was minor flooding at Alligator Alcatraz. This could be a problem when hurricane season really rolls in throughout the season. We're coming into hurricane season right now. So I do think that they need to elevate this. I think they need to try and elevate it by 4 to 5 feet. I don't think they should get rid of it. You hear liberals seeing these videos of the small flooding and saying, oh, we need to get rid of Alligator Alcatraz. They're going to flood, they're going to die. But no, we could just elevate it. We could fix that. I think the idea of Alligator Alcatraz is good. It's a great deterrent because if you're in a different country and you hear Alligator Alcatraz, that you're going to be surrounded by Burmese pythons, wild hogs, and you're going to be surrounded by alligators in the Everglades, you're not going to want to break into that country. That's a scary thought. I like the thought of a fear deterrent to protect our sovereignty. That's not a bad idea. It's just I don't want the people who are there to die if they get flooded. That's a very bad scenario. If it gets flooded, the gators and the pythons are going to be able to get in there. And people are also arguing, oh, what if gators just wander in and just start eating prisoners? That's not how it works. If you live in Florida and you know how gators work, you could swim in the same lake as a gator as long as you don't intimidate it. The amount of people who die by alligators is few and none unless they're provoking it. One happened recently here in Florida. People were canoeing, but it was argued they provoked it as well. Gators don't really chase you, especially if you run away in a zigzag pattern, and they're not going to pursue you in an everlasting chase. Burmese pythons, they really need to exterminate. They're trying to exterminate those out of the Everglades. They're very invasive, but they're there as well, and they're not going to go out of their ways to attack these prisoners. So all this fear-mongering things you hear like that, ignore it. As someone who lives in Florida, has been around these animals multiple times, literally, if I walked outside my house, there is a 8-foot gator in the pond 20 feet in front of my house. I walk my dog there every day. My dog swims in that pond. It's not a problem. Gators, again, unless provoked, are not that dangerous, or unless you're running, right through them, by them. And if you're trying to escape from Alligator Alcatraz, you'll probably encounter a few of them. There's quite a bit out in the Everglades. I don't know if you know about it. But Alligator Alcatraz, I do think needs to fix that. I do think it's a great idea. I do think it's a great fear deterrent. I do think it's a great way to contain migrants for a cheaper way than having to pay a massive amount of security salaries, etc. But yeah, I don't think America is an inhumane country. I don't think we should allow people to possibly die if a hurricane happens because of flooding. Not that is what they would allow. They would obviously prevent that. We do have a government that would never be allowed to allow that to happen. But given that there was some light flooding there, I think they should possibly reevaluate the structure of it and try and elevate it by 4 to 5 feet or so, or maybe even just slope it or add some draining systems or whatever you can do to avoid that flooding. That's really my only problem with it. I don't want liberals to take this and say, oh, he doesn't want Alligator Alcatraz anymore, because no, I'm for it. I just ordered my Alligator Alcatraz t-shirt and hat and a mug. I'm going to celebrate this. I love the idea of it. I think we should actually create more of these. I wonder, Arizona has those mountain lions. What about mountain lion Alcatraz? What about, I don't know, there's a few different ones we could put up around the country, different areas that have different predators. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to have fear deterrence. We need to protect our national sovereignty. If you broke into Mexico, you'd be deported. If you broke into Pakistan, you'd be jailed for 10 years and tortured. If you broke into North Korea, you'd be killed. There are certain countries you just can't break into, and the U.S. is no different. We have to have our sovereignty respected. We have to have our land respected and our laws respected, because without sovereignty, you don't have a country. If you don't have border laws, you don't have a country. Every country in the world understands this premise. Recently, Europe and America were the only places that were really just allowing mass migration, allowing their cultures to be put to the side for other cultures to come in. I think America just needs to keep getting back to American values, keep pushing American cultures. We need to keep pushing the boundaries of what's socially acceptable, the same way Elon Musk is doing every day when he's talking about creating this new America First party. I think it's really important to have. I think we should have more bipartisan support for that. I think we need more people to communicate on both sides of the aisle. That's why I urge people on the left side and the right side to talk to each other about these issues, argue less, communicate more. The best way to move forward as a society and to put America first in a lot of ways is to keep communicating about these things, having open discussions, no one being censored. It's extremely important. And I think the censorship is a big problem. Donald Trump actually just won a huge thing on that against Paramount. Paramount, I think, is paying $15 million or something to Donald Trump because they cut up the 60-minute interview with Kamala to make it sound like she was saying things way more intelligent than she was saying. We all know Kamala was planted there. The Democrats have not legitimately held a primary in a long time. Most of their candidates have been placed there. They didn't actually want Hillary. I think if Bernie was the candidate in 2016, it actually would have been a tougher election for Trump. I think Joe Biden was a clown. And then Kamala got laughed out in the primaries when she went against Joe Biden. She was actually like one of the first people to drop out because she had such low polling numbers. And then DEI was in full effect by the end of Joe Biden's term. So Kamala was the perfect shoo-in candidate when there was 3 months left and they had to kick Biden out because he wasn't leaving himself. And the world was realizing in front of him. He got up there on the debate stage and he proved to everybody that what the conservatives have been saying for years was true, that he had dementia. And yes, it's really sad that his family continued to put him up there on that stage, that his wife, you have to imagine his wife knew that he had dementia, and his wife every day dragged him up on that stage and paraded him around like a show pony. That's terrible. His wife and kids should be ashamed. His family should be ashamed. Take care of your family members. When you have sick family members, it's not... We would have respected Joe Biden. We would have respected the Biden family in the White House so much more in that administration if they just got up and said, hey, he's not physically fit anymore. He is actually not healthy. He's struggling with cancer. He's struggling with dementia. And our family is just going to take a step out of the public light for a while. That would have been amazing. There would have been less investigations into Hunter Biden, most likely. There would have been less stress on the family. They wouldn't have been publicly outed as the corrupt people they are. They pardoned their entire family 15 minutes before the election. That's not okay. That's not American. That's corruption. Presidents should not be able to pardon their entire families right before an election or right before an inauguration of the next president. That should be investigated. And I'm glad the auto pen is still being investigated. The auto pen is one of the most corrupt things. Who is actually signing these documents? Who is controlling the auto pen? Who is putting Joe Biden's signature on everything? We really don't know. I think some of the liberal delusion is crazy. Some of the liberal delusion I've seen on X and Twitter recently is Morgan Freeman has to be one of the most delusional people. I've always loved Morgan Freeman as an actor, so it really sucks to see people like him go down these paths where they're just spouting out delusionary propaganda, delusionary nonsense. But Morgan Freeman, and anyone, go on X, go on Twitter, you search his tweets, you can just search them, and they'll come up from years before. But he tweeted, anybody who is denying election results is a threat to this nation and needs to be dealt with. That's a tweet and a quote from Morgan Freeman. Anyone who is denying election results in this country is a threat and needs to be dealt with. That was something he tweeted out after January 6th. And then now he is tweeting out almost every day that the election was stolen by Donald Trump in 2024 and Elon Musk, and that there was fraudulent votes and that there was fraud in the election. So you just see the hypocrisy of these liberals. People like Morgan Freeman, who was once a very well-respected actor, well-respected voice in Hollywood, who is now making a joke of himself by making dumb political comments, by contradicting himself all the time, by saying that, yeah, if you deny elections, you are a threat to this nation, but I can deny elections because I'm Morgan Freeman and I can do whatever the hell I want. No, you can't. You are a woke Hollywood shill. You are somebody who should just stop talking. Again, it's one of those things where it's like they got mad when someone said shut up and dribble to LeBron. And I'm not saying LeBron can't talk. You have your freedom of speech just like everyone else in the NBA. But no offense, LeBron, you're not that educated on politics. You were hanging out with P. Diddy. You don't know left from right. Come on, it's the same thing. Like, just stop, shut up and dribble. Like, We need people who don't know what they're doing in politics to stop talking in politics. Morgan Freeman's another one. Just again, shut up and go act again. Go make TED 3. Why are you trying to convince people that Donald Trump stole the election when there's no evidence of that at all? Donald Trump won by an overwhelming majority, and he won because of failing woke policies. He won because of failing liberal cities. He won because he doesn't want our tax dollars being spent to fund illegal immigration when we have veterans going through homelessness, when we have housing crises, when we have a bunch of different problems domestically. I think we need to put America first in every way. I made a 3-part episode about this over the last few days, about my America First policies, why I think America is the greatest country, and why we need to continue to put it first in every way. And we're not always putting it first, and our judicial system isn't either. We just saw yesterday, I actually live reported on this yesterday, and I reported wrong, so this is a correction. Yesterday, when I was making the show, I live reported, because it popped up on my screen, that Diddy was going to be acquitted from charge 1, but charged with counts 2 through 5, that he was going to be charged with rape and trafficking, and I was wrong. I guess I read it wrong in the moment, or maybe it changed, but what we're now seeing is Diddy is going to be charged with traveling to visit and have sex with prostitutes. He will not be charged with trafficking or rape charges. So it's just, again, showing money can let you walk. It's the same thing I said the other day about Epstein. It's like, I don't encourage people to do it, but if you're a pedophile and you're a billionaire, it's being proven time and time again you can just get away with it. It's being proven you can molest these people. No one's going to do anything about it as long as you have the right money and the right ways to bribe people and the right legal channels. The fact that Diddy's getting away with this is disgusting to me. Diddy should be in jail for the rest of his life for what he's doing. It is terrible to the victims of his crimes that this is happening. It is terrible for the world that this is happening. Diddy is a menace to society. Diddy should be dealt with by the legal system. Diddy needs to be locked up for the rest of his life, if not given the death penalty, because Diddy was sex trafficking. Diddy was raping children. Diddy was doing extremely terrible things that have been exposed by multiple people. But somehow our judicial system fails to enforce laws against pedophilia, especially in states like New York and California. And New York is where the Diddy trial is happening. So is it a big surprise that P. Diddy is getting exonerated in a state that protects pedophiles? Not really. Do I hate the state of New York for it? In a lot of ways, yes. I think they're failing. If this trial happened in Florida, it would not have happened like that. We need to do what we can to lock pedophiles up and make sure they can never commit these crimes again. And I think the only way to 100% guarantee that a pedophile can never reoffend, and Grady Judd, one of the highest ranking sheriffs in Florida, said this exact quote, the only way to guarantee that a pedophile never offends again is to put a bullet in that pedophile's head or to give them the lethal injection. And that's a hard statement to argue with because, again, you could theoretically chop the pedophile's genitalia off, and unless you're going to chop his arms and legs off too, he's still an able-bodied person who's able to go do things to a child. I think we need to do what Grady Judd said. I think we need to have these people put to death in jail. We need to change the laws in America that pedophiles are not an accepted category in any way, that it is one of the things that you immediately go to jail and die for. Why, again, anyone who thinks that's inhumane or doesn't like my argument on that, debate me, send me an email, write me a comment. I don't care what it is. I would love to hear your take on why our tax dollars should fund pedophiles to stay alive in jail. I would love anyone to defend that. Why do they deserve 3 meals a day? Why do they deserve their own private cell? Because they're generally people who get stabbed in jail, that if they didn't have their own private unit, they would get killed instantly. That's why. And my tax dollars should not fund that. I wish these people would die. I actually want the people who stab pedophiles in jail to maybe get 6 months off their sentence. I think they should get maybe not a shortened sentence, but give them an extra lunch that day. Give them an extra hour outside. I don't know. He took one of the worst people in the world off the streets. That's essentially doing God's work. I think there's murder and there's killing. There's 2 different things. If someone breaks in your house, that's not murder. If you end that person's life, that's killing someone, but it's not murder. There's a difference. That's self-defense. And yeah, same thing. If someone violates a child, I don't think that's murder. I think that's just. I think violating a child is the worst thing somebody could do. It's so inhumane, so vile and grotesque, and so disgusting. Florida has the law to put pedophiles to death under the age of 14 if they touch a child under the age of 14, I think it is. Again, it should be higher than that, the age. The fact that we're not putting more pedophiles to death, the fact that we're allowing any pedophiles to get out of jail and get out of get out of these, like, how are they leaving jail and not getting stabbed? Like, I want these pedophiles dead. I don't want them roaming the streets. I'm sick of the fact that we don't have the Epstein list. Sick of the fact that P. Diddy is about to walk. P. Diddy, like, we've been talking about this case for, what, 2 years now, over a year now, and he's about to walk. We all knew for years, too, that stuff like this was going on. We all heard the allegations. Why are we letting him walk? Why is Diddy doing this? Come on, this isn't justice. This is not justice for these children. Justice will be done in the end, and I hope it is, but this is not the justice that we needed, and one day we will get it. One day we will see Diddy behind bars or whatever it is. I hope we're able to see some justice there. Diddy is a terrible disgrace to human society, and evil exists because we need to defeat it. Evil exists because it tempts us. Evil exists to corrupt humans, and we need to do what we can to spot out evil and root it out of our society. And we're never going to be able to root it out. There's always going to be evil, but what we can do to separate ourselves from that evil, call it out, and in our society we have today, bring it to justice. We need to find justice for this evil. There's a lot of evil around, and Diddy is one of the most evil people to exist. I do want to shift over to our next topic. I want to talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill. We've talked about this a little bit, but we see it now passing the Senate, going up to the House. We saw J.D. Vance lobbying for days on the Senate floor trying to get this done. The One Big Beautiful Bill would raise our debt ceiling by a lot. It's a huge problem. Right now, 39% of all your income tax that you pay is going towards the national debt. So when you pay your income tax every year, 39% of that money is essentially just being wasted. It's not actually like making the payments, the principal. It's paying the interest only. That is very bad. And when this bill goes through, it's going to raise the debt ceiling again. What's the point in having a debt ceiling if it keeps getting raised? It's not a debt ceiling. It's a debt bouncy house. It keeps going up. It is going to continuously keep rising if we don't set the precedent of, no, it's a ceiling. It does not raise. When you flood up to the ceiling, people die. So let's stop raising the ceiling. Let's start trying to manage the situation, get our debt down. Because again, I've already given up on the fact that my generation and even millennials and the generation right below me are going to be able to have the same lives our parents had. But I want my grandkids, I want my kids to have that life. I want my kids to be able to live in a world where they can be successful. I want my grandkids and my kids to live in a world where they're not working all the time just for all their taxes to be paying off interest alone. Eventually, it's going to be the majority of your tax income is going to be going to the debt. And that's a huge problem. And the fact that they're not talking about this more, and the fact that you have neocons in our government pushing for this is really sad. Charlie Kirk is one of the people I respect the most, but Charlie Kirk right now is shilling for this. Charlie Kirk, literally, you could look up his tweets again. I'll pop up his tweet right here for you guys, actually, so you don't have to look it up. Charlie Kirk, you can see, he tweets out that the debt is spiraling out of control and we're going to make it impossible for future generation. And then he literally gloats about the One Big Beautiful Bill, and he doesn't even acknowledge that it's going to do that. It's going to make it more difficult for future generations to survive. I care about the future generations. I care about the future of America. I'm an America First patriot. I love this country, and I want this country to succeed. And if we're going to continuously raise the debt ceiling, like I said, I question why we even call it a debt ceiling if it just keeps getting raised. Just term doesn't make sense. And who are we doing it for? Are we doing it for the 80-year-olds in the government so they could check something off their box that they got this bill through? Or are we doing it for the 20-year-olds and the kids of these 20-year-olds who are just being born or who haven't even been born yet, who will be born into a country that are debt slaves for their entire lives? It's sad. It's corruption. It's our government not putting America first and Americans first. The American taxpayer matters more than anything. You matter more than anything. We collectively mean more than the government. We collectively can stand up to the government in any way. we have the ability to overthrow our government if they become too corrupt. And this is a value America is losing as well. The right to form a well-regulated militia to face tyranny. We need to stand up to tyranny when we see it. And I'm not saying we have a tyrannical government now, but if our government is going to continuously raise the debt ceiling and not focus on the future generations of America, we are going to start having a lot of people revolt. We're going to start seeing a lot of people stand up to the government. We're going to see a lot of people who haven't had their voice heard yet start raising their voice. We need to have more people raising their voice on these topics and subjects. If we don't talk about the one big beautiful bill and its problems, and we just gloat like Charlie Kirk saying, it's a one big beautiful bill, there's nothing wrong with it, that's why it's called the one big beautiful bill, we'd all just be maggots and shills. And again, I use the term maggots in the sense of, you can love Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump. I think a lot of things he does are great, but you can't say every single thing he does is perfect. That's ridiculous. That's just being delusional. Nothing one person does, like, you can't say everything one person does is perfect. That's just not how the world works. People are human. People are going to make mistakes. People aren't going to have everyone's best interest in mind always. Donald Trump has definitely made some mistakes, and we need to be able to acknowledge them. And one of the biggest mistakes is raising the debt ceiling. One of the other biggest mistakes is the AI regulations. We've talked about that enough. You guys know my opinion on that. But the debt ceiling is such a problem. I'm so worried about the idea of the future generations of humans. We're not going to be able to afford homes. We're not going to be able to have a dollar that means anything. Bitcoin's going to, in my opinion, go up in value a lot because of this. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't sue me. But I think Bitcoin is something, I know for a fact they're not making any more Bitcoin, but I do know that every day they're printing money. I do know every day our dollar becomes more worthless. It's had a over 500% decrease in value. That's very sad. I'm very sad that my dollar can't get me as far as it used to. You hear people, I watch the Sean Ryan show a lot, great podcast. He had a World War II veteran on, and the World War II veteran talked about growing up in the Depression and how, like, even though it was the Depression, a nickel or a dime would get you far and, like, things would last. They built things to last. They didn't build things to break after a year and for you to have to buy another one and have to always buy replacements and maintenance. And things were quality, and you're able to get, like, a burger and fries for 10 cents or whatever it is. Things went far back in the day. Your money doesn't go far now. Your money literally is pretty worthless. If you are in your 20s or in your teens and you're paying rent, you understand what I mean. You understand that rent prices have skyrocketed. You understand that everything else in life, interest rates are more expensive. College interest rates, car interest rates, home interest rates. It's becoming impossible to live the same life we were promised by our grandparents, by our parents. I want to get that life. I want to be able to have a sustainable America. And when I say sustainable, I don't mean in the woke liberal way. Sustainable in the sense of this country is not going to collapse to communism. That's what we're falling to right now. We're falling to communist states in certain places. See what's happening in New York. It's literally communism. Communism led to the death of over 300 million people over time. Just look at any empire. If anyone doesn't know about the downsides of socialism and communism, just please pick up a history book. It is so bad what communism does to societies, and it always leads to tyranny. I want America back. I want America to take stances against these things. I want us to, like I talked about today, I want us to fix Alligator Alcatraz. I want to make it safer so it doesn't flood. I want actors in Hollywood like Morgan Freeman to be less delusional, stop spreading propaganda to the American people, and don't be so hypocritical. If you're going to say that election deniers are the worst people in the country and need to be dealt with, then don't deny elections when your candidate loses and your candidate was proven to be corrupt. Your candidate was proven to have dementia. These are problems. Why would you want a candidate with dementia? Again, it just makes me question the IQ of Morgan Freeman. I want people like Diddy to be held accountable. I wish Ghislaine Maxwell was actually held accountable. I wish Epstein actually saw his days in court. I wish these pedophiles would be held accountable and we would create stricter laws against pedophilia in this nation. We have groups in California who are trying to make pedophilia legal in some ways. They call them minor attracted people because pedophile is an offensive term now. Okay, like, I don't care. Like, literally, I will call them any word I want in the book and it's okay. Pedophiles are the worst people. I could call pedophiles pieces of shit. I could call pedophiles dog shit. I could call pedophiles literally anything I want because they're worthless. And here's the thing. Any pedophiles who disagree with me, come and speak up, because none of them ever do. You could say anything you want about pedophiles, and they're a very quiet group. They don't love to speak out against it when you say something to them. They love to sit there in the shadows. Any of you pedophiles, any of you pussies who have a problem with me calling you out and saying that you should be dead, send me a message, comment on my video. I would love to talk to you. We'll get Chris Hansen on the line. Maybe we'll get Dr. Phil in here. We'll bail Vitally out of jail, get him back in action for this. Because come on, pedophiles, they stay quiet for a reason, because they know they're sick, deranged people who deserve to die. Nothing more, nothing less. They deserve nothing more or less than death. They are the worst people in this world. I don't think that's a point of, I get it's an aggressive thing to say. I get it's an aggressive way to say it. I hear that a lot. But people don't disagree with the point generally. Most people agree with my point. Most people are just silent on it. They don't want to be as aggressive when they say it, especially in a video like this, but I'm not nervous to do that. What's the worst that's going to happen? A pedophile is going to challenge me? Come at me. Please, I encourage it. I would love for a pedophile to come on my show, come talk to me. I would love to interview you. I would love to understand why you're such a sick, deranged asshole. I would love to understand how you got the way you are. But again, it will never happen because they don't speak up. They're a very quiet bunch. They know how terrible they are, so they just shut up about it. And the last thing I really want is I want people in our government to stop shilling for lobbyists and shilling for Donald Trump and shilling for things that aren't actually good. Stop shilling for the AI part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Stop shilling for raising the debt ceiling. Stuff like that's not good. We can all agree to that. People like Charlie Kirk know that. People in our government know that. People like Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene speak out about it, but almost nobody else. We need these things to be fixed. We need people to speak up. We need more red-blooded Americans to speak up and be patriotic. We need patriotism to have a full revival in this country. This is our book of the week. I've talked about it before, the Daily Stoic. We're going to do a book of the week every week, whatever book I'm reading that week. I think everyone should read anywhere from 50 to 100 books a year. I know that's a lot, but you could also do audiobooks, which are a great thing. If you listen to podcasts or whatever throughout the day, listening to an audiobook is extremely similar. And you could even find ones that are voiced by some of your favorite actors and more entertaining voices, things like that. But the Daily Stoic is basically a calendar book. Every day there is a different page that tells you what you should be accomplishing that day and why you should be accomplishing that. In July, the thought process around it is duty and fixing your duties and basically accomplishing all the duties you have during the day. And I think that's extremely important, that no matter what tasks you have, no matter what you're going through in life, you need to be able to overcome things you're going through and complete your tasks, because you'll feel better about the day if you did that. Sitting stagnant is a sin and it's lazy. Sitting stagnant does nothing for anybody, and if you just sit still all day and do nothing, you will never grow as a person. So every day, whether you have a broken arm like me, or whether you have a broken leg, or whether you lost your voice that day, or no matter what your excuse is, it's an excuse. Get up that day, do something with your life, and if you can't walk, then crawl. If you can't crawl, then roll. But we're going to get up and we're going to do something today, folks. We are going to make today a win. We are going to win every day that we get up, and we are going to claim victory at the end of every day when we accomplish all our tasks. That's what this book is about. It's about overcoming obstacles. It's about defeating every obstacle in your path, no matter what it is. It's the same thing they say in Casino. If you're not going to beat him with your fist, he's going to come back with a bat. If, you beat him with a bat, he's going to come back with a knife. You beat him with a knife, he's going to come back with a gun. It's not as dark as that, but you got to keep chugging. You got to keep pushing. No matter what life throws at you, no matter what God throws at you, no matter what obstacles or hurdles or wins or losses, you got to overcome them. You got to keep moving forward and pushing forward, because the worst thing in life is reverse momentum. The worst thing in life is going backwards. Never take a backward step. That's the best advice I can give everyone, is never take a backward step. And I'm not speaking physically, I'm speaking in life. Continue moving forward. Continue pushing forward. Push the boundaries of what's socially acceptable. Push the boundaries of life. Push the boundaries of our existence. Elon Musk does this. I try and do this. There are plenty of people in the world who try and do this, and they make the world a better place because of it. I'm James Pascalides. This has been episode 81 of America Unfiltered. I'm signing off today. I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.